The Roman Empire did not fall because of barbarians. It did not fall because of corruption or military overstretch. It fell in part because of a mouse carrying a flea carrying a bacterium, and a bacterium that would kill a third of Europe before anyone understood what was happening. Mice have been shaping human history since the first humans settled in one place, and we have barely noticed. To understand the mouse's role in human history, you have to understand what mice actually are. Not just pests, not just vermin. Generalist opportunists of extraordinary adaptability. Mice can eat almost anything, live almost anywhere, reproduce at almost any time. A single pair of mice can produce up to 2,000 descendants in a single year. Under the right conditions, abundant food, shelter, warmth, populations explode. And the right conditions were created the moment humans invented grain storage. Before agriculture, mice and humans barely intersected. Nomadic humans left no lasting food caches, no permanent warmth, no reliable shelter. Then, 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans settled, built grain stores, created exactly what mice needed to thrive. From that moment, mice and humans became permanently, inescapably linked. Wherever humans went, mice followed. Every trade route, every ship, every new colony, every city. Genetic analysis of modern house mice traces their global spread directly along human migration routes. The mouse genome is a map of human history. Now, let's talk about the grain. Because grain loss to mice changed civilizations. Ancient Egypt lost an estimated 20% of stored grain to rodents every year. 20%. Every year. For millennia. This is why cats became sacred in Egypt. Not spirituality. Pest control. The cat was the most important agricultural technology ancient Egypt possessed. In medieval Europe, grain losses to mice drove food prices up dramatically during winter. Famines that historians attribute to harvest failure were often worsened by storage loss. The people did not starve because the fields failed. They starved because mice ate the reserves. Now, let us go to disease. Because this is where mice changed history most catastrophically. The house mouse carries over 35 diseases transmissible to humans. Not all of them were historically significant, but 3 of them changed the world. The Black Death, the plague of Justinian, the third pandemic of 1894, all 3 driven by Yersinia pestis, the plague bacterium, carried by fleas on rodents. The plague of Justinian struck the Byzantine Empire in 541 AD. It killed between 25 and 50 million people, a quarter of the known world's population. It weakened the Byzantine Empire so severely that it never fully recovered. The empire that might have reunited the Roman world collapsed instead. Because of a flea. On a rat. On a grain ship. The Black Death arrived in Europe in 1347. It killed between 30 and 60% of Europe's entire population within 7 years. Entire villages emptied. Cities lost half their people. Fields went unplanted for generations. The labor shortage that followed forced landowners to pay workers more. For the first time, serfs could demand wages, move between employers, refuse bad conditions. The feudal system began to collapse. Not because of revolution, not because of ideas, because there were not enough people left to maintain it. The Black Death created the labor conditions that led directly to the Renaissance. The Renaissance, the explosion of art, science, philosophy that defines the modern world, was partly financed by the economic disruption caused by a rodent-borne disease. The mouse did not intend this. The mouse was just following the food. Now, let us talk about the New World. Because mice played a devastating role there too. When European ships landed in the Americas, they brought diseases the indigenous populations had no immunity to. Smallpox gets most of the attention. But rodent-borne diseases traveled on those ships too. Leptospirosis, hantavirus, typhus, all carried by the mice and rats in the ship's cargo holds. Indigenous populations had never been exposed. Their immune systems had no preparation. The colonization of the Americas was not just a military conquest. It was an ecological invasion in which mice were among the most destructive forces. Now, let us talk about something completely different. medicine. Because mice did not just kill humans throughout history. They also saved us. The laboratory mouse is the most important animal in the history of medical science. Over 95% of all animal research is conducted using mice and rats. Every vaccine, every cancer treatment, every antibiotic, every surgical technique, tested first on mice. The insulin that treats diabetes was developed using mice. The chemotherapy that treats cancer was developed using mice. The COVID-19 vaccines were tested in mice before any human trial began. The mouse that carried the plague also carries the cures. Why mice? Because mouse biology is remarkably similar to human biology. Mice and humans share approximately 85% of their protein-coding genes. The same genes, the same diseases, the same drug responses. A mouse that gets cancer gets the same cancer a human gets. A drug that cures it in a mouse has a real chance of curing it in a human. The biological closeness that made mice a disease vector also made them a research tool. Now, let us talk about something no one discusses: the psychological impact of mice. Musophobia, fear of mice, is one of the most common specific phobias in the world. More common than fear of heights. More common than fear of flying. And from an evolutionary perspective, this makes complete sense. Mice were historically associated with grain loss, disease, and contamination. A human who reacted strongly to mice, who stored food more carefully, who avoided contaminated areas, survived better than one who ignored them. Your fear of mice is a survival response inherited from ancestors who lived through plague. Now, let us bring this all together and look at the full picture. Mice created the conditions for cat domestication. Mice carried the diseases that ended empires. Mice created the labor shortages that ended feudalism. Mice helped colonize continents through disease. Mice enabled the development of nearly every major medical breakthrough of the last century. One animal, weighing 20 grams, shaped the rise and fall of empires, the birth of medicine, the structure of modern society. Not through power, not through intention, through the simple, relentless act of following the food. The most consequential creature in human history never knew it mattered. And it is in your walls right now.